Okay, so good evening everyone, bonsoir à tous et à toutes, and welcome to tonight's presentation of OTF Connects, titled Enhancing the Writing Process Through Technology with Marie Swift. As I have mentioned, we have a fairly small group tonight, and I think that it's in part due to the weather conditions. It was pretty bad here in Toronto a few hours ago, but it's not a big problem. It's always nice to have small groups because it allows us to be more interactive and it will allow Marie to spend more time answering your questions. So I certainly encourage you to post lots of questions in the chat box throughout the evening and to keep her busy. Je voudrais aussi profiter de l'occasion pour souhaiter la bienvenue à nos collègues franco-ontariens. Cette session est en anglais, mais si vous désirez obtenir des informations en français, surtout n'hésitez pas à me contacter par la suite. We are definitely thrilled to have each and every one of you with us tonight, and it's also an absolute pleasure to welcome Marie Swift. Marie is an elementary teacher in the Simcoe County District School Board. She has taught students in all grades from kindergarten to grade 8. Some of her recent roles include resource teacher for technology and for literacy from kindergarten to grade 12. Marie is now sharing her learning with students and staff in her new role as a teacher librarian at the Maple Grove Public School in Barrie. Marie has facilitated seminars for OTF in the past, and we are certainly glad to have her back with us tonight on this OTF Connects program. So at this point, I will invite Marie to jump in anytime she wants. So Marie, please remember you need to click on your, okay, perfect, you have done it. Excellent, so go ahead, the class is yours.
Okay, well, merci beaucoup, Michel, and I'm very excited to join all of you this evening. And as Michel mentioned, I know it's the weather's terrible. I had quite a treacherous drive home, so I got some time to relax when I got home, and I'm looking forward to working with you this evening. So also, yeah, just to reiterate what Michel said, please jump in and ask questions and share your ideas. We want this to be as interactive as possible. So just to start out, I'll actually mention this slide that you're looking at right now. I got these slides from a website called Slides Carnival, and it's a great resource for teachers and students, and we're talking about technology, and we'll talk about publishing our writing, so this is one resource that you might want to consider with your students. So again, I'm a teacher with the Simcoe County District School Board and have taught different classrooms. I was a primary teacher and did a little bit of time in junior classes and then did a central role with my school board, so that was awesome. I like to kick things off. I've done quite a few presentations, and I like to often kick them off with kind of an emotional start, a quick little video, and I have a dual purpose here. Once Michel gets the link in, we'll just wait a second and I'll introduce it first. But this resource that I've mentioned here, WatchKin, basically it's new to me, but it's a website in which you can take a YouTube video link and then you put it into this website, and what it does is kind of clean all the clutter and lets your students just see the video that you want to show them, because we've all had this experience where you're showing a video and the video ends and then the next suggested videos come up and they might not be appropriate for your student. So the video is only 1 minute long, and it'll seem like I'm sending out a commercial to you, so please ignore the product placement, but it's a powerful message, and just have a look and then let's talk about it when you come back. So we'll just click on the link now and we'll come back in about a minute.
And also, we're going to show you a number of videos tonight. When you come back into the class, give us a green check mark so that we know that you're back. Thanks. Okay, so I think that we have most of most of the people are back, so if you want, we could resume now the presentation.
Okay, and I noticed we have a new joiner, Lily. Welcome. And maybe you could have a chance later to watch that video. But I felt that it was really inspiring, and even though it sort of goes beyond what we're talking about for writing, it is inspirational to think about what the students do have at their fingertips. The technology is absolutely amazing, but I loved what the presenter said, that it's not about what technology can do, but about you can do with it. So we always want to think about, it's not about the wow, it's about the how, and we want to make sure we empower our students to think about what they can do and what their skills are behind the technology, and that it's not just the technology as a shell. So I would invite you to just take a moment and read that quote to yourself by Troy Hicks on Choice Literacy. It's one of my favorite websites. So I'll just be quiet for a second and let you read that over, and then I'll have a few thoughts to share with you. So we really do have lots of technology at our fingertips. We've got computers and smartphones and video cameras, and we have so many devices that allow us to do or not do all kinds of writing and add visual information and text, images, and so forth. But I'm not trying by any means to suggest that we will always use technology. There's a lot to be said for using paper and pencil. They've done lots of studies that show the benefits of doodling and actually doing paper and pencil. And also the other factor is that a lot of students don't have technology available to them. We're going to talk about that in a minute and get your feedback on what's available to you. So I'm not by any means suggesting that you're doing every piece of writing with technology. But technology in the writing workshop really provides for greater differentiation. For some students, it can be really motivating for them, especially those who have difficulty with fine motor skills. A lot of students find it tedious to rewrite something. So if they wrote it paper and pencil and then had to rewrite it again or even type it over and fix it up, they find it to be really tedious. And we need to reflect too on ourselves. Like, think about this. When is the last time that you wrote something out and then you revised it and you edited it and then wrote out the whole thing using a different writing instrument? So we don't do it ourselves, so we shouldn't expect our students to do that same thing. So what I want to do is just kind of turn it over to our group for a couple of minutes and honor the differences we have in the virtual room this evening. So we're just going to ask you a couple of questions about your situation and the opportunities available to your students. So as Michel was mentioning, he's going to put out, instead of the check mark, he's going to change it to the A, B, C, D. So if you just click on, if you drop down the letter A at the top just under your name, the drop down will show, awesome, it'll show the options A, B, C, or D. And if you could just let us know, and we'll see it as a survey, just click the letter that corresponds there. You can see A if you teach grade 3. By other, I'm thinking maybe if you have a multi-grade special ed learning center or something, or maybe like me, you're a teacher librarian or some other situation like that. Okay, so lots kind of in the middle, no, grade 3. And the people who are choosing D for other, would you like to share with us what your situation is? Maybe just type in the box, or you don't have to if you don't want to. Just curious. Oh, awesome. Music teacher. Oh, it's a great connection with me. I was doing a great lesson today with a music teacher and using technology. Oh, an innovation and learning coach. That sounds exciting. Thank you. All right, let's go to our next page. We have another quick survey, and just wondering what technology is available to you. That's a big issue in my school. I'm guessing maybe in yours too. We are not a one-to-one school. Actually, we're going to talk about the frequency in a minute, but for now, just tell us what kind of technology is available. Whether you have iPads or Chromebooks and laptops. I'm not sure exactly what I meant by other, but yes, if you could just choose the letter in the drop-down again. You can see. So I've very intentionally made this session not just specifically to focus just on one device. I'm not assuming, I'm making the, not counting on the fact that you have iPads at your disposal. So I see some do and some don't. Okay. And awesome. Okay, so people are fortunate to have technology. And just while we're at this slide, if you could just let me know, like a lot of the things, and I presented it in the, or I mentioned it in the description, that some of these things are connected with Google Apps for Education, like the Google Suite tools. Is there anyone who does not have? Actually, maybe if, Michelle, if you could just do a yes, no, or the check mark and X. If you could just let me know with the check mark if you do have Google tools available to you in your school board. So green check for yes, we are able to use Google Docs, Google Slides. In our board, we don't use Google, we don't use Gmail, but we use all of the others. Awesome, fantastic. Okay. And how often, so I've moved the slide now, how often do you get technology, do you have technology available to you? I saw someone in the chat mention the one-to-one situation, and that's awesome. So please, one more time, choose A, B, C, or D if you get devices anytime you want them, one-to-one, or daily, weekly. For some people, it's hard to get their hands on them. I know I create the schedule at my school, and there are teachers sometimes who get frustrated that they can't have the access for their students as often as they want to. Okay, thank you very much. So we've got Lily, you've got a question. Would you like to use the microphone? Go ahead.
Lily, if you want to ask a question already, you just click on the talk button located in the top left corner of your screen, or you can, oh, okay, it's okay. So you just click on your hand again. It's the third icon under your name to lower it. Okay, perfect, thanks.
Okay. Awesome. And please, by all means, I'll keep an eye on the chat, so just go ahead and type the questions in as they come to you, and we'll chat about it. So this is kind of an overview of the writing workshop, and this comes from the Junior Effective Guide. So in the resource list, I'm going to be sharing lots of resources, and at the end I'll share a resource list, and there's an excellent article about routines in the writing workshop. So this is kind of zooming out, looking at the whole big picture, and it's always good for us to have a refresher on the basics for the whole big picture once in a while. This is a suggestion. And I just wanted to reinforce that technology can be integrated into each and every part of this framework from either the teacher or the student perspective. So for example, looking at the top left, the mini lesson, you could create a mini lesson and project it using your data projector, possibly using mentor texts online, or, you know, some of you have hover cams and you can project a book. And then there are different interactive tools that you can find online. For status of the class, that can be quickly taken by an online check-in or a sign-up page projected on a whiteboard. And in a few minutes, I'll be sharing an example of a digital one that you hopefully will be able to take advantage of. But the main focus of tonight's webinar will be on the third, the sort of darker purple area, what your students will be doing during the independent work time. So that's when they're moving through the stages of the writing process. But at the same time, while the students are working independently, obviously the teacher is also having conferences with individual students or maybe small groups, some guided writing. We should be doing that at all grade levels, 3 to 8, absolutely, and into the primary as well, of course. So you, the classroom teacher or a supporting teacher, could be gathering students around maybe a projected image using the technology again to have a small group focus, or maybe you're using iPads to enhance whatever task you're working on. And the teacher could also be using technology to gather anecdotal notes. For example, maybe using a Google form. I've supported a lot of teachers to create a form that they fill out themselves, and all the data goes into a spreadsheet. So it's just something quick you can grab on your own smartphone to quickly record anecdotal information. Another tool is Google Keep, and if you are an Office 365 user, OneNote is very handy as well. So when you've got your smartphone close by, it's easy, and I do this on a daily basis. I use my voice to text to quickly create notes. I'm talking into my phone and it's typing up what I want to say, and we'll talk about that for students as well. And then the final stage in the bottom right-hand corner of this slide is the sharing session, and we'll look at different technology tools and ideas throughout the rest of this session, and hopefully you'll have some to share with us as well that teachers and students can use to either present their work to their peers, or tools for them to give feedback to each other as well. And your students as well might have lots more ideas of creative ways that they can make their ideas public, or also using the traditional word that we've often used, and the word is the term being publish. So this is intentionally created in a cycle. So the process is rarely linear. The wording from this, I believe, also comes from the Effective Guides to Instruction and Literacy for the Junior Grades. I believe it's 6 volumes, and they're quite good if you can get your hands on the paper copies. That's great, but they're also available online. So I just want to read you a little quote from those documents. Each writer approaches the process in a unique manner, orchestrating the components in his or her own way and as needed for a particular purpose. Throughout the process, the teacher acts as a mentor to the apprentice writers by modeling, coaching, conferring, and encouraging. It is important to note that, this is kind of my addition, that it's really important, I feel, that oral language needs to play a very important role in this process. We know our students from grade 3 to 8 are very social creatures, and they want to get feedback from each other. And also, we also realize that when you are speaking out loud, when you're rehearsing mentally, then that will help you with your writing. So just as the listening helps us with reading, listening comprehension and reading comprehension go hand in hand. If students are rehearsing and saying things out loud, it'll definitely help them when they go to write them. So we're going to visit each of these stages in the writing process in our journey this evening, and we'll take a few little detours to explore some other ideas. But kind of have these in the back of your mind, and if you've got a little scrap of paper and have some ideas that when we get to one of those stages that you'd like to share with us, we would love to hear it. And of course, if you have any questions or challenges that you're thinking about with your own students, then we would love to hear them and have a chance to discuss them as we go through. So, as I mentioned, these stages are flexible. You can see that this quote again comes from the Junior Guide, and we need to be flexible for and with our students to go through those phases. This next slide is a screen capture of a Google, it's a Google sheet. So I see Michelle has shared that with you. Now, when you click on the link, you're not going to see this right away, but what it'll do is ask you if you'd like to make a copy of it. And so I invite you to do that. And I know you'll sort of have to multitask and see a couple things at once. But basically, this comes from a project that I worked on with some other teachers through OTF. We did a TLC project last year. And we really wanted to focus on the integration of oral language with the writing process. So you can see down the side I've put in some fake student names. But when you put your student names in, then you would share this, like so you've got your own copy, and you would share this with your students, and then they can either, on their device, fill in their name under the column representing the stage that they're at in the writing process, or you could just have it projected from your laptop and invite students to come up. Let's face it, students need to get up and move around a little bit. They can't sit still too long. So you could have them come up and do that. So this is kind of in maybe some variety of, instead of having these posters up on your board, and what I've often done is had the student names on a magnet and they get to move their name from one stage to the next. So this just makes it virtual. And because of the way I've formatted it, if they put their name in a certain column, the color will show up. And then if they are needing your attention and you're not working with them right away, another little handy thing, kind of like the little check marks that come up in Blackboard, if they put their name, if they put an asterisk after their name, then the column will turn yellow. So you'll see at a glance who needs your help. So I'm glad to see that some people have had some success clicking on that. Are we able to get into it? Okay, it looks like is there anyone who was able to get it? I think, okay, the link is really long and it looks kind of funny. So it looks like maybe it got split. Okay, so Marlene did get it to work. I can redo the link if we need to. Okay, so some people are getting it, so obviously yeah. It's
How do you click on a link?
Are you on an iPad or, sorry, I can't figure that out.
The link is located in the chat box. You should be able to click on that link in the chat box, or you just have to cut it and then paste it into your browser. So you open a window into your browser, into Internet Explorer or something like that, and then you click and you can paste the link. And if it's not working, tomorrow you will receive a follow-up email, and there will be actually a link in that email taking you to the OTF website. There will be a page on the OTF website, and all the resources and all the links that we're sharing tonight will be in that page, on that page. So you'll get everything tomorrow in case it's not working tonight.
Yeah, and I apologize for that frustration. I think hopefully it's just because this link is so very long. I'm going to share also a folder with some other resources, and one of the contents of that folder is this page, so you might even be able to get access to it tonight as well. Thank you. Okay, no problem. Yeah, so let's move on. So just as a little transition, so some tools of the trade. There are many, many wonderful tools, and I hope that as we're going, maybe we'll pause in just a minute and ask you for some of the tools that you use. I just want to mention a couple of kind of my main go-to tools, and we'll see if you're familiar with those. BookCreator is an app for the iPad. It originated that way, and it's not free, unfortunately, but it is well worth the cost if your school or your school board can purchase it for you. But don't worry if that's not the case. The free version, if you have access to get it, you can create a book. You can take advantage of making class books, and then once you've finished the book, then you just export it, and then you can delete what you've put into that book and start another book. It's not ideal, but I do have lots of options for you. In my school board, we have apps that are distributed from a central tool in our school board, so we would need to purchase the paid version of the app to have access to it. But our board they have purchased some for us, and this is one of the ones that we highly recommend that they did. The wonderful thing is that very recently they have also created an online version of this. So, okay, pricing there. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's not cheap, but The online one is basically free. You can make 40 books. So that's quite a few. I'm sure we can be creative and stretch that out. So the online tool, we're going to have a look at it in just a minute. And the great thing is that you can use your Google account or your Office 365 account. And it does pretty much everything that the app can do, with the added bonus of they've just very recently made it so that you can work collaboratively. So students can work together on a book, which is wonderful. So let's take a minute now, and we'll take 5 minutes. If you have the iPad, I'm not suggesting you download this on your iPad right now, because that'll take a little while. But if you have it handy and you would prefer to explore it on there, that's fine. But what I'd like to do is invite you to go into the link. So Michelle just put in 2. So it's the one that says BookCreator Online. So I'm going to ask Michelle to set a timer for 5 minutes. We'll meet back here in 5 minutes. And what I'd like you to do is go into that site. It'll ask you to log in with either your Google account or your Office 365 account, and it'll ask you to create a library. Let me go to the next page because this will make it a little more clear. I've written out the steps for you, step by step, so hopefully you can go into that website and then kind of come back here easily and have a look. But you see the steps there from 1 to 7. And hopefully I've gotten them in the right order. I had to do some screenshots. So have a look, create a library, just call it test or whatever, even if you don't think you'll go back to this. I think you will love it once you get in there. So let's spend 5 minutes just exploring and click around, click on the plus sign and see what you can add into your book. And I will be available if you want to type questions to me while you're doing that, but I won't be speaking until the 5 minutes are up, so I'm not distracting you. Okay, so timer's on.
So there's some link somewhere I'm not seeing again.
Okay, so it's the very last link. So in your chat at the bottom left corner, you have to sort of scroll down to the bottom of it. That happens to me. It keeps going back to the top. So kind of scroll to the very bottom of the chat. Do you see it now?
I don't really have a bottom to the chat. I have one box that says chat supervised.
Okay, awesome. And then there's a white bar on the far right side of that. And if you scroll, there's a little, like a gray jelly bean that slides up and down that white bar. If you click on that and slide that all the way to the very bottom, you'll see some links in there. Is that working?
No.
I'm sorry. So what do you see under chat supervised?
I see a Z in brackets.
Do you see a number of, normally in that window, the window that says chat supervised, you should see a number of entries. People have posted a number of comments and questions and entries. Do you see them? Do you see a number of entries? A number of,
no, I see none.
You see nothing. Okay, so it might be a problem. It might be a problem on your side. I'm not entirely sure, because it seems to be working for everybody else. So I suspect that it might be a problem with your computer or with your internet connection or something like that. What you could do if you want, because we have 5 minutes, so actually we have 3 minutes left now in the 5 minutes, but you have the time if you want to log out, to quit the application Blackboard and to log back in, and that may resolve the problem. Or if you want to keep following the presentation without access to the chat box, that's also an option. It's your choice, really.
I'll find out and sign in. I'll try.
We will share all these links with you tomorrow, so you will receive them all tomorrow, but there seems to be a problem on your side. So The best option if you want to resolve it would be to quit. You go to Blackboard, collaborate, quit the application, and then you come back in.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
You have just 1 minute left, but I just want to ask you to please leave that website open as you're coming back to us. Okay, so as you're coming back, just give us a check mark so we'll know that you're back in. And take a moment just to type a little something in the chat box to let us know what your impressions were. Maybe let us know if you've seen it before, if you've actually used this tool, or if it was new to you, what about it was impressive or piqued your curiosity. Just give us a quick little comment about what you discovered in BookCreator Online. That's awesome, Marlene. Great to hear that. Yeah, it's wonderful. Sad, Kelly, or Don, sorry. Hopefully we'll get you caught up. Awesome. Thanks so much for all the comments. Yes, it is a wonderful tool. So we will hopefully get some time to go back because I want to show you some specific things later about feedback. Yes, using Claudia at putting their own voice. I recently did a green screen smash where the kids were responding to a Blue Spruce book where it's called The Branch, and the kids drew a picture of a tree, and then I put them in the tree using green screen, and then they wrote a sentence to go with the picture, and they read their page with their own voice, and they absolutely loved it. Okay. Yeah, the free version is great, isn't it, Bernadine? Yep. Awesome. That's great. Okay, let's continue on to one of my other favorite basics, and I'm happy that a lot of you mentioned that you have this already. You have Google Slides, you have Google Docs. It's great for feedback, and I know I'm maybe singing to the choir with some of these bits of information that hopefully you're probably using them already, but I don't want to assume that. There are some limitations to using slides on mobile devices. We can't insert a video like we can on the computer, but for writing purposes, they're both great. I love the fact that BookCreator, Google Docs, and Google Slides, for all of those tools, you can actually go back and do all of the stages of the writing process, all in the one tool, one-stop shopping. So I love that. The other wonderful thing about the Google Docs and Google Slides is that you can connect them with your learning management systems. So maybe you use D2L or Google Classroom, and you can connect to it. But if you don't have access, I think maybe there's the odd person or two that doesn't have Google. So all of these ideas that we're mentioning this evening can also be applied to Word, because there's also Word Online, or Pages. Pages is a Mac tool for creating slides. Okay, so I just want to mention, I'm a big fan of Daniel Pink. I don't know if you guys are, but students might seem really interested in using technology to assist with their writing, but we really need to make sure that there's true engagement and intrinsic motivation to sustain their interest and their effort. And Daniel Pink in his book Drive, he talks about the 3 components that must be in place for intrinsic motivation to be present. And to me, this is the foundation of so many things that we do as educators. So in terms of mastery, we need to intentionally guide our students through the process and make sure they understand all of it and exactly what we're expecting them to do. In terms of autonomy, as often as possible, I always like to give people choices, and kids like choices just like we do. So maybe if we pick the topic, then they have some options on which form of writing they'll use. Or if we want to focus on a specific form of writing, then maybe let them choose the topic, and hopefully there will be greater buy-in. And in terms of purpose, we need to help students to see the bigger picture and continue to remind them about why writing is so important in their lives. It seems like we're doing less and less of it, but it's still so incredibly important. So we need to have them see how it connects with and supports other areas of learning. And this is basically the Pearson and Gallagher Gradual Release model. And I had a version like this that I've had in my classroom for years and years. Basically, I had some clip art of a teacher in the blue section and students in the green section. You can see how the role of the teacher gradually decreases as the role of the student gradually increases. And instead of just thinking about this in a philosophical or a pedagogical way with our colleagues, I think it's important to really bring this right to the forefront with our students and let them know where we are during the lesson. And you see the keys there to remind us that we wouldn't even imagine giving car keys to a 16-year-old without first showing them the important elements when we drive and then asking them to watch us carefully and give us feedback when we're driving. And then we drive with them before we would ever consider sending them off on their own. So we will see many opportunities during our session in which we need to remind ourselves not to start at the independent phase and hand over those car keys too soon, but we need to really be methodical and go through those stages. And of course, depending on what the task is and the ability of our students, we'll need to spend different amounts of time on different stages. But that might be even a poster that you might want to print out and have on your wall, or create one with your students, even better. So this is part of the journey that I was talking about, the 5 stages. And for some of you, you might call this planning. This from the junior guide, they talk about pre-writing. So planning might include rehearsing your writing with a peer. And you can see the information in that poster. I'm sharing all these posters with you. But the focus on the oral language section in the bottom left, and then the technology section in the right. So kids really need to rehearse. Even with kindergarten kids, we often use something like Draw and Tell or Flipgrid in my library, my Learning Commons. And even with the kindergarten kids, I insist that they think about it first, and then they talk about it with a friend before they do their work, which often isn't writing, but it's oral language. So we want to give them the chance to do some brainstorming and asking. Maybe it's part of an inquiry and they're asking questions or doing research. So the pre-writing stage can have lots of different forms. So we want to give them lots of choices within the framework. So maybe we're going to give them a graphic organizer, and maybe we're going to let them sort of develop their own after we've given them some options. So some students want to plan. It's just like you. Sometimes you just, you're going on a destination and you carefully look through the map, and for some of you, you jump in and start exploring. So students are like that too. So the author of a book called Make Writing, and actually she's got a new one out called Hacking the Writing Workshop. Her name is Angela Stockman. And she writes in her first book that much can be gained from asking writers to define and sketch their own models rather than imposing one on them. So in the picture here, you just see that my symbols of BookCreator and how that's great for the pre-writing. Yeah, when you go back into it later, you can see that one of the options is drawing. So if kids wanted to, they could draw their own graphic organizer or just do point form. Or they could even sort of jot down some ideas quickly, and then the same with the Google Docs and the Google Slides. We'll have some interesting different ways to use Google Slides that we'll talk about in a moment. So I'm going to show you two tools. Oh, awesome, Melanie. You got the book. Great. I haven't read it yet, but it's sitting beside me. Two tools. Again, I believe in autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So I'm going to give you a couple of choices. And one is Google Drawings. So those of you who already have Google Apps for Education or Google Suite maybe have explored them. For some people, it's just one of the ones that they haven't gotten to yet. So Michelle has given some links. So I'm going to invite you in a minute to go and browse. So a couple of different options if you want to explore some Google Drawings graphic organizers. And the other option is Poplet Lite. I just wanted to give an option for the computer or the laptops and an option for the iPad. Poplet Lite is just one of many organizers. It's kind of a mind map / graphic organizer tool, and it's free. And the link that Michelle is going to put in next, it's just a video that explains it, so you won't have to take the time to download it or anything. So just going through quickly the language arts graphic organizers with Google Drawings. That's a blog post, so there are many links that you can browse. And then 15 free Google Drawings graphic organizers, another one. And then there's the Poplet Lite tutorial. So I think probably we'll do 4 minutes. So what I would like you to do is please click on one of those 3 links. And if you've got some time, maybe try another one and just have a look. Sometimes we get resources and don't have time to explore them. So here you go in the next 4 minutes. Have a look at those, please. So as you're coming back into the chat room, please just click on the green check mark to let us know that you're back. And if you'd like to, in the chat, just maybe mention something that you discovered, something that you liked, or maybe have kept a mental note to go back and continue. There is no green check mark. Okay. Michelle, can you put the green check mark back, please? So Lily, you thinking Poplet maybe was too complicated for your students, or just a little too involved to get at right now? Okay, so everyone's back. Yes, Mindomo. In fact, I had Mindomo on this, and then I thought that was too many. So yeah. Sorry, Lily. SSC. I think I don't know, I'm torn with graphic organizers because I think if we're, okay, student support, so like a learning center. No, Chromebooks don't support Poplet Lite. It's an iPad app. Okay, thank you for the suggestion, Farin. Hopefully I'm saying that name right. iBrainstorm, I don't know that one. It is an iPad app, thank you. So for some kids, depending on their background and their ability, the labor of doing a graphic organizer can be very frustrating, and some need the support. So you really have to know your students well. One rule of thumb, pardon the pun, I used to use was just like having the kids, look at their hand and think about, if there's an introduction and a conclusion, and like kind of imagine turning your hand to the side and then your thumb on top. So that's, the support, the introduction, and then 3 main points and then a conclusion, which kind of worked for any form of writing. So you don't want to overdo it with these, but that's why I like, just kind of going back into BookCreator, where you can actually just draw a simple graphic organizer. So is there anything else anyone wants to share about the pre-writing stage before we go on to the draft stage? Co-creator is on Google. Okay, like on the Chrome Web Store, do you mean? I'm not familiar. Are you asking if BookCreator is on Google? Okay. BookCreator is a website because it's an online tool. So yes, you can get it on Google Chrome. And we will hopefully have time to go back and explore it a little. And it's, well, it's free. You can, yes, it's free in terms of you can write up to 40 books. So a writer's notebook, I suppose a writer's notebook you could keep, if a student has up to 40 books, they could have one of their books as a writer's notebook where they can jot down inspiration and ideas, and then use the other books to actually start a plan or pre-write, a draft, revise, edit, publish in another tool. That's a great idea. Writer's notebook, I hadn't even remembered about that. That's awesome. Okay, let's think about the draft. So for younger students, or any students, I think audio recording in BookCreator is awesome. I was recently working with the grade 4 and 5 group. I'm going to be working with them again tomorrow. And we did an activity that will be in your resources at the end using Lego bricks. It was amazing. So basically they were using the Lego blocks to create a symbol for their narrative. And we went through this whole process, and it was timed, and they were thrilled and active and excited, and they kept on talking about their main character, and then they had to create a symbol using Lego to represent their character's strengths, and then some challenges that the character overcame, and as they went around and around the circle after these different blocks of time, their stories developed. So what we did was, because they was so focused on oral language, we went back into BookCreator and they said their story with the recording tool. So in a minute, I'm going to ask you to do a couple of things. So in BookCreator, you can add an audio recording. On this slide on the right-hand side in the bottom, there's a symbol of a microphone. That is to symbolize the voice typing tool that's in Google Docs. Now, voice typing is not in Google Slides, but the workaround is that the kids could use their voice to type their content and then in a Google Doc, and then copy and paste it into a Google Slide. And the reason why I'm really promoting Google Slides and not just Google Docs is because Google Slides can be transformed into an e-book. You might not realize this, but the standard widescreen or the standard shape of a slide in Google Slides is not automatic. You can go in and you can customize it, so you can make an 8.5 by 11 book. I've done that with a group of students from grade 6 and grade 9 who are collaborating. One group was doing the illustrations and one group was doing the pictures. And you can turn it into an ebook. So I find that kids who are very creative orally, they might be able to tell you a wonderful story or give you lots and lots of detail, but then when you put a pencil or a pen in their hand and they go to write it down, they're really stumped. So I really like to get the kids speaking as much as possible. And then thinking about the rough or the draft stage too, I find some of the teachers that I work with have the kids write their rough copy, paper and pencil, and then they go to use technology. And I find that there's a huge benefit to using technology at the draft stage because it's so easy to make corrections. Yes, kids get upset and they get frustrated when they have to rewrite things or cross something out or correct it. And as we know, it's so easy to do that in a digital tool. So the focus in the draft stage here is getting the ideas in writing. The content is the most important. Teachers could and should provide anchor charts for students at all the stages, and as I said, I'll provide these to you for you to use or adapt. Um, on the left-hand side, the little symbol that says Explore, that's a fairly new tool. And you can use the Explore tool right in Google Docs. And what it does is let you do research and let you pull in information from websites and also images. And the images that you can pull in using that Explore tool have already been filtered out so that they are images that the kids are allowed to use. So this is something that I just discovered recently too. With BookCreator, it also has a similar feature to pop in pictures. If you click on the plus sign and you choose Import, and then import a file from Google, you can see how easy it is to add an image. And again, it's images that you are allowed to use. So thinking about our time, I would really like to do this. So I hope you don't mind. Please indulge me. We're going to go, let's spend 2 minutes. And you choose if you want to go back into Google, if you want to go into a Google Doc and play with the voice typing, you just go into Tools and click on it and talk to your computer and get it to type for you. Or go into the BookCreator online again and click on the plus sign and then just make sure you're comfortable with the audio recording. Can I just have a quick thumbs up if you think it's worth doing that? And if not, we can move on. Do we have yes or no? Check mark or X. If you think no, we don't need to do that. Okay, so Michelle, we're being asked to put the link back for, there we go, thank you. So we're getting some check marks. Okay, a bit of both. So let's just put that on hold and then we'll try to come back to that later and I'll keep on moving. But make yourself a note to make sure you take some time to go in and make sure you're comfortable talking into these documents, because for so many of your students that will benefit them. Think of it as they go in and tell their story or talk their content, and then they can go back and listen to it. If it's the recording one with BookCreator, then they can go back and listen to the recording, and it's almost like they're scribing for themselves. But it kind of takes the pressure off of writing right away. Let's move on just to this quick poster that I've added. Just hopefully this picture will stick in your mind. Yes, a ramp does benefit a person in a wheelchair, but it also makes life easier for someone pushing a stroller. So my point here is that using speech to text is great. It's necessary for some kids, okay? So just as the ramp is necessary for someone in a wheelchair. But it's not absolutely essential for other students to be able to talk into their device. But for so many kids, as I already mentioned, it will just really enhance the ideas that come out and it will benefit them. So Michelle has added some links, and we're not going to stop here to have a look at them just now, but if you're not sure of how to talk to your iPad and get it to type for you, then you would want to know how to turn on Siri. I always tell kids, if you're going to talk to your iPad, then it needs to be able to talk back to you. So if you are using your voice to talk to your computer, you need to also listen back to what you've dictated, because sometimes Siri, especially with kids with articulation difficulties, Siri doesn't always pick up with what you're saying. And I stress they have to enunciate clearly, and it sounds goofy, but they have to do that to make it work. And so speak selection and speak screen are two options that the students all the students should be shown. And those are some information on how to turn those on in the accessibility on your iPad. The links are there. So make sure you take some time to explore those and you know how to turn them on. And I think kids feel, at first they feel self-conscious talking to their device because those who have to do it don't really want to. So what I try to do is model for them. Like I told you earlier, I talk to my phone every day, and I do that intentionally in front of students so that they can see that's another way. It's not about how smart you are, but how you are smart. And if you have great ideas and they come out with your voice instead of with your pencil or your keyboard, then they're still great ideas. When you're using BookCreator with the iPad, if they type their words, they can also, there's a feature called Read to Me. So once they play the book, there's also a little button in the top right-hand corner, and it'll read the book back. Awesome. Bernadine, that's great. Great to hear that. Hopefully everybody will explore this with your students tomorrow. And also remember with Google Docs, the voice typing, it really does pick up the voice as well. You have to sort of give it permission, and make sure you speak your punctuation too. Or as I said, you can make a recording and then scribe for yourself. So just a quick idea here, class books. That's, again, another social aspect, and kids really like to work together. It's a nice way because if you've got limited technology, it sort of needs to be quality over quantity. So sometimes you're not going to be able to have them write long, involved things. It'll just be something quick, and a class book is great in BookCreator because the kids can each do a page on different iPads, and then there's a feature whereby you can combine them together. And that works really well for a short piece of writing. And I'm going to mention this, but we're not going to take the time to watch it right now. On this next slide, it's called How Important is Feedback? This is a wonderful video. It's about 6 minutes long, and I don't want to lose people, so I'm going to invite you and strongly suggest that you come back. I'll invite Michelle to put the link in, or you can check it with the links tomorrow. But this is something you could, and I highly recommend you watch it with your students. It's mind-boggling when you see this little guy's butterfly at the beginning, and then after he's been given feedback. And then my link with the students is, of course, the analogy is the butterfly represents writing in this situation. So if we actually take the time to give strong and thoughtful, careful feedback from peer to peer or teachers to students, then we can raise the bar and these kids can come up with some amazing results. So let's switch over to the revise stage. Now I'm going to jump on a soapbox here for a moment. I feel very strongly about revise being a separate and distinct phase from edit. Okay, so notice that in the text on the page that it's about, does your writing sound right and does it make sense? So we're checking for the content and we're only listening. I found that when I started doing writing conferences and I separated revision from editing myself, I was much better able to support my students, because if I was doing a conference with them and I was trying to help them edit and revise at the same time, I was drawn to the visual elements of their writing and wasn't able to focus. And maybe that's my learning style, but I think kids need to focus separately on each one. So, and I've actually had the realization lately too that kids kind of almost need to not only read their writing to a peer and have the peer listen to make sure it sounds right and makes sense, but they almost, if it's possible, and with younger kids it's hard to do this, but if they have a peer read their writing to them and they just listen to it, because then they can see how they're writing. When you read something that you have written, you know what you intended to say and your brain fills in the blanks. Like those, we've all seen those puzzles where there are words without any vowels and you can read them. Your brain fills in the blanks. So if you're reading your work to somebody else, you might read what you intended to say but not what's on the page. So having kids listen while somebody else reads to them, here's where the technology comes in beautifully, because if you can stop and highlight all the text and have it read back to you, then you can listen to what is actually on the page with the technology. So we just really want to focus again on the content, the sequence, and I have put the symbol on the top right-hand corner. That purple puzzle piece is for Read and Write for Google. That is something that our school board has purchased for our special ed students, but it does benefit all students to use the free version. The one feature is that they can have the text highlighted and read back to them. So even if that's all they get out of that tool, but there are other wonderful features that does anyone have access to Read and Write for their students? Just curious. Give me a check mark or a little note. Awesome. So lucky. It's just wonderful. And there are new features all the time. That's fantastic. So again, kind of like think of the ramp with the wheelchair and the stroller. We should really get our students all to use it because it will help all of them. And then sort of separate from the revise stage is the edit stage. So that's when we are using our eyes and we're being very careful to look and make sure that the writing looks right. That's when we're checking for capitals and punctuation. And again, we want to do lots of oral language and have the kids with partners working. And here are a couple of technology tools that can assist. I know this can be maybe different, people would have differing opinions on this, but the top link, RaiQ, is from the people who made, it's from Text Help, which is the same purple puzzle logo for Read and Write for Google. It's the same company, and they have said it's free and it's going to stay free. And basically it's a tool. So I'm referring to the symbol in the bottom right-hand corner, RaiQ, and basically it counts the words that the students have written. It is an add-on that you would use in Google Docs. But one thing that it does is that it highlights text if this tool feels that it's not grammatically correct, but it doesn't fix it for them. So what they'll have to do is focus in and maybe get some help and figure out how to fix that error. And Grammarly is another tool. I haven't really used that with students to any great extent other than older kids. So I haven't, to be honest, used it with elementary students, but it's something you might consider looking at. I've told lots of adults about it, and it's kind of, I guess you could say, a spell checker on steroids. Like it really pops out things and shows you incorrect usage. And I feel that that would be good to draw the attention of our students as long as they're taking the time to understand why they've made a mistake and learning from that. And another way for students to really focus with their eyes, people have suggested this to me for years, that if you're reading something, you actually could read it backwards. So start at the end of the sentence and read backwards. So you're looking at the words intentionally and slowing down, because like I said earlier, our brain kind of fills in the gaps for us and fixes the mistakes, and it's hard to notice them. So any questions about, does it assess punctuation? I don't think so, Bernadine, but I'm really hoping it's one of these tools that is going to keep evolving. I think the first time I looked at it, it was only kind of telling what grade level the content was and how many of this kind of word and that kind of word, and then it didn't really talk about the grammar at first. So I'm hoping that it will evolve and be a little bit more robust. Yeah. And please jump in. Any other comments or questions about revising or editing? And do you do them separately with your students? Anyone want to jump in on that? Or if you have a special way to make it them intentionally separate, or do you sort of combine them separately? Awesome. And maybe it's something that you haven't thought of before, and I know time is limited. It's hard to do it all. But if you go back to that tracker that I shared with you at the beginning, you can have kids, what I do is have the kids sign up for, if they're on the revise stage, they get one partner for that. And then once they move to the edit stage, they get a different partner separately. Jason too? Good. Awesome. Okay. So peer feedback in general, when you've got kids doing revising together or you've got kids editing together, I want you to think about how you hold them accountable. So how do you make sure that students get feedback? And then how do you make sure that they give quality feedback? And do you have any form, any way or system of tracking the feedback so that we all know that it's great to give our students feedback, but if they don't actually do anything with the feedback, the next time they go to write, then it's forgotten. So let's take a moment and just jump in here. This is where we're going to use the tool that Michel told us at the beginning. He's pointing to it now. Just down, actually, Michel, would you like to explain it?
Yes, no problem. It's the fourth tool on the vertical tool strip. It looks like a little A, and it's very simple. You just click on the little A, and you can start typing directly on the slide. It's very simple.
Okay, so what we're looking for is just a little, we'll make a little graffiti page, just a little brainstorming of what you do for giving feedback. How do you make sure kids give each other feedback and they get feedback in a quality way, and do you track it in any special way? So let's just make a little bit of graffiti on that page. Just take a moment. Don't be shy.
We have a few people on iPad, and obviously it's a tool that doesn't work on the iPad. It only works on the computer. So if you're on an iPad, you can just type in the chat box. And then if you type on the screen, it's completely anonymous. So you can just grab the little A, you click on the fourth tool, the one with a little A with the little lines, and then you can start typing like with a word processor.
Oh, 2 stars and a wish. I think that's where that one's going. Awesome. Jot dot feedback. That sounds interesting. Awesome. Yeah, I like this how it's anonymous. You can just be comfortable to, I mean, we ask our students to share their thoughts and they hesitate, and we do too. Oh, I like that. The students have to sign the feedback form so you know who is giving the feedback. Peer receiving checklist and must use. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. That's fantastic. Love those ideas. I know with an old school that I was at, they kind of experimented with little workbooks, and they were trying to get it so that kids wrote down their feedback so that they had it to refer back to later. So if you're giving feedback in a Google Doc, you can highlight the text and leave a little comment, and it kind of appears on the side like a sticky note, and those can be saved. Yes. Awesome. Yes, the comment feature in Google Docs is great. And use a different color and sign their name in that color. Awesome. And the same thing digitally, right? So a different color pen or a different color of a font in the document itself. Okay, so I want to get going. I'm going to turn the page. Thank you again for sharing. Pre-arranged video checklist. Awesome. Okay. So basically, it is difficult to do consistently. I know it's very tricky, but I have a couple of tools that I would like to really have a quick look at. Google Keep, and Google Keep is a tool for keeping notes, And what I'd like to propose that you consider doing is keeping a list of ongoing feedback that you typically give. There's always a student who does a run-on sentence. There's always a student who needs a reminder about capitalization. And if you keep a collection, if you keep a list of those tips and also like links to YouTube videos and so on, then you can easily you can open this Google Keep in a Google Doc when you're marking a student's work, and then you can pop the feedback in. So that is a 7-minute video. We don't have time to watch that. I apologize. There's a video that will give you the link so you can have a quick look at part of that video. We're going to just dive in for a couple of minutes. And Google Classroom, there is a quick video that you can explore to remind you of how you can give feedback. And the third tool is called Screencastify. So imagine that you are looking at a student's work in whatever, a Google Doc or even BookCreator, and you're capturing what you are saying to that student and highlighting things while you're doing that. And you can even do a selfie video so they can see your face while you're explaining your feedback to them. So I'm just going to give you 3 minutes to really quickly click on one of the links and have a quick peek at one of those things. So just a really quick 3 minutes to click on the link for Google Keep, Google Classroom, or Screencastify. Okay, hopefully you had a little peek at one of those tools. Please give us the green check mark when you're back. I know that might have been frustrating because you might have just gotten into it, but hopefully you found something of interest that you will want to revisit. And just before we move on from the topic of feedback, I just wanted to mention a colleague of mine gave me an excellent idea, and he talked about using Google Slides as templates. So he recently gave me an example of a science experiment. So he put, and you can quickly copy. So if you have 2 pages in Google Slides, then you can copy those 2 and they make 4, and then you can copy those 4 and they make 8. So it doesn't take too long. But you can have a slide for each student or each pair or group of students, and then it's all in one place and everybody can see everybody else's feedback. So that's kind of an interesting way to look at it. So we're going to move on to the publish stage, and one thing that I really want to emphasize here is thinking about going public. And not every piece of writing is going to go all the way to the publish stage. So think about quality over quantity, especially if you have limited access to devices. But it's great because then you can add multimedia and so on. And I love the saying, why write for my teacher when I can publish for the world? So just really quickly, the top 2 logos are familiar to you by now. The bottom left-hand corner, that's for Adobe Spark Video, which is really easy to use, and it's a slideshow, just kind of another different, unique way to publish. The bottom right-hand corner is a symbol for Blogger. If you're interested in blogging, let me know. I'm giving you my contact information. I'd love to send you some information about how to get kids started using Blogger. So these posters that I've shown you kind of as the foundation in the background, those 5 posters are in a link here that Michelle has shared with you. So again, you could change the text completely and make them your own. You could just tweak them yourself, or you could write them with your students. You could use the symbols that have been created, and it's just something that could go on your wall and be, it's taking over at my school. I've got lots of classes that are using that, and it's kind of consistent and it's streamlined, and yet it can be individualized. So that's the link for those. And just a reminder, this is a variation of the writing process that was created by a woman from the States named Ruth Ayers. And she talks about the emphasis of this green dotted line, that sometimes we just make a plan, collect ideas, and do a draft, and we don't even go as far as revising and editing, and we don't certainly publish everything. So not all pieces of writing go beyond that line. And just read that and think about what that means to you. I find some kids love to read, and it's harder, I guess it's just sort of such an expressive thing instead of a receptive thing. It's just hard to get kids who absolutely love to write, so we need to find ways to do that. I see that a couple of people are interested in blogging, so yes, please reach out, and absolutely, I've done blogging. Definitely would be appropriate for grade 4. I think it's ideal. I've done blogging with younger grades because there are different ways to adapt, and right now I've got my grade 7s and 8s in my Red Maple group who are doing blogging and loving it and doing a great job. Okay, so these are some ideas that I'm going to just invite you to explore later. There are different things and ways that you can inspire kids to maybe be really motivated to write and get that ache with caring about their writing. Lots of different ideas. So there are links that will give you a link to this whole page that has lots of links. Sorry to leave you with some homework, but hopefully that will inspire you. And this is a resource page. You'll have a link to that as well. It's not exactly a bibliography, but it's kind of a list of things, websites, articles, resources that have inspired me in the past little while. And here's my contact information. I would absolutely love to hear from you. This, I don't know about for you, but for me, this time has flown by, and I'm excited to read your ideas and hear a little bit about what you're doing, and I would love to stay in contact. And if you have any questions or would like to share some things that you're doing, I would love to hear from you. So, Michelle, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Marie. Well, you know, it was really a perfect presentation for your comeback to OTF Connects. I think it went really, really well. Although we noticed that technology is not always perfect, and we had some problems at the beginning. I think Dawn experienced some problems with her chat box, and she had to log back in, but that's what technology is all about, and it's a process, and eventually we get things working, and it's great. I personally love the technology webinars because technology moves really fast, and there's always something new to learn. Even if we've been using technology in our classroom for years, there's always something new, and I think there were tons of great ideas tonight, and lots of resources. I can tell you, you guys have no idea, but I will post everything on the OTF website, and you're going to see there's like 15 or 20 links that you can explore tomorrow or in the coming weeks with all kinds of information that Marie has provided. So thank you so much, Marie, for your enthusiasm and your expertise. It was really great. We certainly loved your passion.
You're welcome.
I also and I also want to thank everybody else, obviously, all of you, for participating with us tonight. I always like the fact that these sessions are very cooperative, and I saw that some of you were answering questions asked by others, and that's really what it's all about. It's like all of us helping each other to become better teachers. I just have a few more things to tell you before I let you go. It's going to take another 2-3 minutes. These are the credits. You'll get that tomorrow as well. One thing that we need from you at the end is your feedback, and when you quit Blackboard, you will be automatically redirected to an online questionnaire, and it takes a few minutes to fill it up, and if you could do it tonight, that would be great. And then when you are done with the online questionnaire, you will be redirected to a second page where you can enter your name, and you will then receive a certificate of participation by email. And that certificate of participation can be added to your professional resume. So that's what we're going to ask you when you leave Blackboard in a minute or two. I also want to tell you that we have lots of really exciting sessions in the next 2 months, more than we have ever had. So I'm not going to go over all of them. This is just the first half of April, but we probably have like 20 or 25 sessions until the end of the year, all kinds of interesting things. So I'm just going to post the link to our calendar in the chat box and invite you to go to the OTF website and to explore for yourself to find what we have coming up in the next few days. I also want to tell you that there's an opportunity that is provided by OTF and the Ministry of Education. If you are a qualified teacher and if you have completed additional qualification courses in mathematics, technology, or kindergarten, you are most likely eligible to a $450 subsidy. And to get that $450 subsidy, all you need to do is go to the link that I'm just posting in the chat box, and that's on our website, and then you will be able to apply for that subsidy. So that's it. We are coming to the end of the session, though. I think it was a great session. We are happy that Marie is back with the OTF Connects team, and I certainly look forward to many presentations with her in the future. And I also invite you to follow OTF on our website and on the social media. So that's it. Thank you once again for your participation in tonight's session, and we certainly hope to see you soon on OTF Connects once again. Bonne fin de soirée à tous et à toutes. Merci.